So about 9 months ago, I made a sword skating guide right before Eager Edge was added to the game, and that brought with it a whole lot of new movement tech. So today, it's finally time to make an updated guide, this time for all 3 classes. I'll have timestamps and chapters for all 3 classes, both basic and advanced, and also some general tips for movement when using swords. With the release of Arc 3.0 pretty soon, and Bungie's habit of randomly patching things, I'll try to update the description and the pinned comment with anything new that develops, so make sure to check that before you find out that something doesn't quite work like the way it used to. If you guys do end up enjoying this video, please be sure to hit like and subscribe for more videos like this. It really helps out, as these videos take a lot of time to make. But before we get to the guide, do you guys want to know a secret? Do you want a guide on how to fit an amazing AAA quality game right in your pocket? Something you can jump in and play at any time? You know it, you love it, baby, it's Raid Shadow Legends! Download Raid now using this QR code or the link in the description on both mobile and PC, right now! There are a crazy amount of bosses in Raid, and my new favorite is Hellraiser the Dragon. He's the guy from the opening cutscene of the game who wiped out your team. If you're struggling to get revenge, I've got an easy tip you can use to beat him. When he rears up and is about to breathe fire on you, a part of his health bar will turn purple. If you kill that part in time, it cancels the attack, just like Aoterra from the Deepstone Crypt raid in D2. This month, Raid has a crazy non-stop schedule of special events and activities with amazing rewards like the Forge Pass Season 3 with a limited edition set of artifacts. There's also going to be brand new skins and new champions like this awesome one for Madame Ceres. But the biggest news of all is that later this month, Raid is upgrading everyone's favorite champion, the Death Knight, to Legendary. I can't wait to play the ultimate version of the most hilarious character. Now is by far the best time to get started. All new players can use the link in the description or the QR code on screen and get this starter pack with $30 of value absolutely free. You can find these rewards in your inbox for the next 30 days only. Thanks to Raid for sponsoring this video. So to start off this guide, I'm going to go over mobility and some basic sword techniques. I'll also put a little icon on the top left to show the current section of the video with 1 to 5 stars based on how difficult I think the tech is. I don't know how many people still think this, but mobility does not affect the sprint speed or your jump ability. It only affects walking or strafe speed and your initial normal jump height. It's still useful to have high mobility, as the higher initial jump and acceleration will mean your jump abilities will go higher. Each class does have a movement exotic that increases sprint speed in Dune Marches, Stompies, and Transversive Steps, as well as Arc Hunter's Focus Breathing perk. These exotics also increase mobility, along with Scientific Method, Electrostatic Shock, Killing Wind, and Assassin's Blade. On the other hand, Legend of Acres will actually give you a decrease in your jump height and mobility, something I think is completely unique to the gun. So because Bungie doesn't want us activating our jump abilities during the sword swipe animation, we'll have to use a little workaround in order to sword skate again. I'm going to be using Warlock here for demonstration, but these techniques apply to all 3 classes. In order to carry the momentum of the sword swing, we need to swap weapons so that we can activate our jump ability. First jump and swipe forwards. Then jump, swipe, and swap weapons. And finally, jump, swipe, swap weapons, and activate your jump ability. To ensure the camera doesn't keep moving from third to first person every time we sword skate, you can swap back to the sword to stay in third person after performing the skate. You can also chain together normal sword swipes while swapping to and from your sword, but it's not very fast or ammo efficient. Sword swiping is based on your FPS, so PC and new gen consoles will sword swipe and gain speed faster. Swords were actually made to lock onto enemies and kill them, but when skating that isn't exactly ideal. Looking upwards as far as you can before sword swiping can actually break the lock-on with nearby enemies and make it a whole lot easier to sword around. A slightly faster method of sword skating comes with a lament, where you perform the same inputs but with a lament block charged attack instead of a normal sword swipe. This has been power crept by Eager Edge and is basically useless unless you're using lament for DPS in an encounter. Lament also gives you less of a benefit the higher your frames are compared to a normal sword swipe. To perform a lament skate, jump, hold block, then swipe forward and swap weapons. Make sure you hold down the sword block long enough for Lament to fully charge the swipe, otherwise it won't give you the extra distance compared to a normal swipe. Eager Edge is a sword perk that comes from these 2 swords sourced from Dares of Eternity, and gives double lunge speed and distance. The perk is activated by swapping to the sword and lasts for 1 second with a 4-second cooldown. If I refer to any Eager Edge tech, just know that all the same principles can be applied to any normal sword as well. The first Eager specific tech is you can do 2 Eager swipes within 1 activation of the perk. This is called double Eagering. Because the perk timer starts when you swap weapons, you can jump first and delay swapping to the sword slightly to get more time and leniency with this tech. Other than that, it's just doing 2 sword swipes as quickly as possible. Swipe, jump, swipe. It also helps if the first swipe goes slightly up from your current position. This allows you to land and do the second swipe quicker. Another thing that helps is swapping off your sword and then back after your first eager swipe, the same as the sword skate. This makes it quicker to get the second swipe off in time. Another tip with eager edge, knowing the cooldown, which just comes down to muscle memory and timing, but it's something that's often overlooked. Knowing when you can and can't use eager and how that affects future eager uses is a very helpful thing to know when making routes. The eager edge perk also works when you don't have any sword ammo. Normally, trying to skate without any ammo would completely stop any movement, but with eager it still carries your momentum, slightly slower than the speed of a normal sword with ammo. Eager edge also caps your speed while you have the perk active. This means it can actually slow you down when you pull it out, which can be useful when falling or going too fast. If you manage to use eager edge and have the perk run out right near the end of your swing, you can get all the benefits of the speed, but without any speed cap, meaning it will launch you forward slightly faster. This also applies to any eager skating that I'll mention later in the video. I'll start with the class that has the least movement tech, Titan. For the basics, Titan has 3 jumps, and outside of a scenario where you absolutely need to go directly upwards, you never want to use high lift, leaving strafe and catapult as your ways to go. For straight line speed, strafe is the best, but catapult has more utility, allowing you to gain height and then level out and gain speed. So really, it depends on the scenario for which jump is better. Start off using strafe for higher speed, and then catapult if you need it. In any case, you want to be keeping lift active for as long as possible for the most speed. For exotics, there are 2 choices, Lion Rampants or Dune Marches. Because Lion Rampants increase your lift duration, they're going to be faster in unrestricted movement. Dune Marches give increased sprint speed, and are only useful when you're unable to use your jump like holding a heavy relic. For subclasses, all 4 have movement abilities. Stasis has the melee, which is basically a shoulder charge, but takes you further the longer you hold the button, and they have the slide, both of which are fast, but usually not worth being on stasis for. Solar, Void, and Arc all have shoulder charge abilities, which are a good movement option if you don't have a sword, or you want to end your movement, as after a shoulder charge, you pretty much come to a complete stop. Any shoulder charge can also be used while sliding. Because you can also shoot while sliding, you can combo all 3 of these together to quickly get a 1-2 punch shot on a boss, or fire a shot and get to cover in PvP. Finally, Arc has the Thunder Crash melee, which allows you to move downwards very fast, and can combo into the Thunder Crash super, allowing for speed gains there. The super on its own is also a very useful movement tool, and can allow you to go through tiny gaps that you usually aren't able to access. Titans can use the basic sword tech by eager edge swiping, swapping weapons, and activating lift to keep and gain speed. You want to hold your strafe lift for as long as possible to get the most speed. After that, you'll want to bounce off the ground and activate lift as quickly as possible in order to keep the most speed. Or just eager edge again if it's back. Because Titan's lift can recharge midair, Titans can infinitely fly using Lion Rampants, Catapult Lift, and any sword. You simply tap jump, sword swipe, tap jump, repeat. You want to make sure you're deactivating your jump before sword swiping. That's something I often see people getting wrong. The stasis melee can also be used here in place of a sword swipe to save more ammo and fly for longer. The terminal Titan tech to talk through today is bubbleskating. Bubbleskating is cancelling your eager edge swipe by casting a Ward of Dawn. The way you do this is by going to the very edge of a ledge and using an eager edge heavy attack and casting bubble at the exact same time, but this must be done right after pulling out your eager sword. This is incredibly inconsistent to perform, and from my testing only works in a very small window about 0.3 seconds after swapping to your eager sword. It's also a lot less useful than other movement tech, but if you do want to use it, the best way to practice is in a private mayhem game with minimum super regen and respawn time. To keep your super but also lose the ability to jump, you can time a suppressor grenade to go off right after you do the skate. The best timing I found for this is swapping to your eager sword as soon as you see your weapon come back, but this timing was even harder to hit than normal bubble skating. Moving on to the hunter and starting with the jump. Triple jump is going to be your best option in most scenarios. It gives you the most control and distance with your jumps. Strafe jump can be useful in gaining speed where you don't need to worry about control as much, if you want to switch directions or bounce off a low roof to gain crazy speed. One unique thing about hunter jump is that the longer you hold down the jump key, the higher your jump goes. This is the same as every class's normal jump. For subclasses, Blade Barrage, Tether, and Stasis allow you to carry momentum slightly longer after jumping vertically. Simply activate your super at the peak of your jump to gain a bit of extra height. Blade Barrage and Stasis are especially good for this, as they can actually push you through some barriers that nothing else can. The whole Stasis subclass is the king of movement on Hunter, with the shatter dive aspect allowing you to dive very quickly to the ground. The Touch of Winter aspect is also very good and allows for more things, but I'll touch on that more later. Shatterskating is the fastest movement tech on Hunter and is used extensively in speedruns. It's performed by using an eager edge heavy attack off a ledge and using a shatter dive and jump, all which cancel each other out and launch you forward at incredible speeds. The exact inputs are heavy attack, jump, shatter dive, all within about half a second. The timing will also change based on the length of ledge you have and if you are already moving. The best place to practice this is anywhere with a lot of ledges and heavy ammo, like a rally banner in a raid or dungeon, or in a nightfall where you can load in with full ammo. When done correctly though, a shatterskate doesn't actually use any sword ammo. Shatterskate can also be performed with a light attack, even without ammo, although with less speed. Once you've done your shatterskate, it's pretty hard to control midair outside of stopping your momentum completely, so make sure you're lined up with where you want to go before starting your skate. You can also look upwards while shatterskating, or make sure there aren't any enemies around to avoid locking onto them instead of shatterskating. While you're in a shatterskate, your camera is locked to third person and you can't look down very far, which is even more restrictions on movement. The easiest way to stop your shatterskate is to simply shatter dive again, bringing you back down to the ground. For something slightly more advanced, you can combo an eager edge light attack swipe into a shatterskate, similar to a double eager, but when at the end of the first eager, immediately do a shatterskate. And for something even crazier, you can combo a shatterskate into another shatterskate, and even into another shatterskate. The hardest part is actually finding the right terrain, as you need 3 angled walls or ledges all close to each other and pointing in different directions. Then it's just a matter of shatterskating, flicking the camera, shatterskating again. Now, the other part of stasis comes into effect, the grenade. Using a glacier grenade will instantly give you a ledge on any flat ground or wall to be able to shatterskate off. Using it directly under you will also put you on top of the grenade, instantly ready to shatterskate. With Touch of Winter, Duskfield grenades can also be used to get a smaller ledge on any surface, with a much shorter cooldown. You typically don't want to use Touch of Winter with glacier grenades as it creates a circle around you instead of a nice flat wall, and is harder to shatterskate off. Another use for the glacier grenade is pushing you up a wall or flat surface. If you throw it against a wall close to your legs while pushed up to it, it will launch you upwards much higher than normal jumps. You could also just land on it and jump up again. And last but certainly not least, we come to the Warlock movement. Warlock's movement is the most complex and everything is integrated with other parts of the system, but I'll try my best to break it down individually. Starting with exotics. For most movement in the game, you'll be wanting to use transversive steps, as it increases sprint and slide speed as well as initial jump height and walking speed. In cases where you need to use more heat rises grenades, you'll want to be using Starfire Protocol to have 2 grenade charges. If you're on Blink, Astrosight Verse is by far the way to go, but transversives can still be useful with the increased sprint speed. Next, the jumps. You never want to equip Balance Glide, and mainly just want to use Burst Glide unless you're skating with Heat Rises or the Dawnblade Super. Burst Glide will give you a boost of speed after activating it, then allow you to fall gracefully down. For this reason, we only want to activate Burst Glide to get that little bit of speed and then deactivate it to keep as much as possible. You also want to do this when your initial jump starts going down, so you can bounce off the ground and gain even more speed. If you bind your jump to scroll wheel, you can also scroll when you're going down, so that it rapidly activates and deactivates Burst Glide, giving you a large boost in speed. This is especially useful going up slopes, as you can input a lot more jumps and zoom upwards. These inputs are FPS based and gets harder the less FPS you have, as you have less frames to input each activation and deactivation of Burst Glide. Yet another quirk with the Warlock's glide is that it loves angled surfaces. If you jump up an angled surface, the glide will push you up faster than jumping against air. This effect is multiplied when you add heat rises to the mix, and it'll have you zooming higher in the sky. Finally for the jumps, we come to Blink. Blink is a short-range teleport that is most useful for raw speed when on Void subclasses, but it doesn't carry momentum nearly as well as Burst or Strafe Glide. Blink is most useful when carrying relics that don't allow for Icarus Dash use. Plus, it has the added ability in very specific circumstances to fit through usually inaccessible gaps. For Blink, you almost always want to use Astrosight Verse for quicker Blink recharge time and greater Blink distance. I'll quickly touch on Void and Arc before moving on to the main movement mechanics of Solar. Arc Warlock has one buff to movement speed, which is Electrostatic Shock. This perk stacks up to 3 times and gives increased walk speed when allies are near. This increases your walk speed to the same speed as sprint speed, and is very useful when carrying relics that don't allow for jump abilities. Void Warlock has Nova Warp, which has its own dash. You can combo this dash by using a Burst Glide before it, similar to an Icarus Dash, which you can then bounce and chain together. You can also just spam the Super Dash, but that's a bit slower. Now for Solar. For straight movement, you always want to use Icarus Dash and Heat Rises, with Icarus Dash being the most important. Icarus Dash allows you to dash forward once every 5 seconds, and Heat Rises allows you to float for 15 seconds, with kills extending that timer, and it also grants 2 Icarus Dash charges. Icarus Dash should always be used right after activating Glide. Jump, glide, dash, then bounce to keep momentum. Combining this with an eager swordscape gives you the bread and butter basic Warlock movement. You can also use a double eager here for some more distance and speed out of a single eager charge. Instead of Icarus dashing immediately out of the eager skate, you can bounce along the ground first, then use your dash for extra speed and distance. You always want to keep bouncing off the ground and using burst glide to maintain as much speed as possible until your next eager cooldown and Icarus dash. Icarus Dash can also be used to negate physics damage at high velocity, as in the animation, you can't take any fall damage or impact damage. Heat Rises can be used with Strafe Glide and Icarus Dash to gain infinite speed along a flat plane given enough time. First, activate Heat Rises, then glide, dash, bounce off the floor, glide, dash, then keep bouncing to maintain speed. Once your Icarus Dashes are back, use them to increase speed again. Using a fast cooldown grenade or Starfire protocol to get 2 fusion grenades also helps with getting more Heat Rises time during this tech. Without Strafe Glide, however, Heat Rises kills almost all momentum as soon as you activate it, and should only be used for more vertical movement. Heat Rises can also be used to infinitely fly in the air just like Titans, but by utilizing scroll wheel jumping to spam activate and deactivate Glide so that it never drops you out of the air. You can also combo this with getting kills to refresh Heat Rises, getting more grenades, and also Eager or Swordskates to get more distance. As for your super, you'll usually want to use Well of Radiance to perform wellskates that I'll touch on later, but Dawnblade is still very strong, especially in situations that require you to lose and then gain height, as the Warlock's normal glide is incapable of doing so. The best way to use Dawnblade is to activate Glide, dash forward, then deactivate Glide. This is the most efficient use of your super energy. And on higher frame rates, if the dash is spammed, it has a chance to use your normal Icarus Dash charge and lock you out of dashing at all for 5 seconds. Dawnblade can also be combined with Heat Rises to reduce the amount of energy drained by using each Icarus Dash. Additionally, Dawnblade cannot go above a certain height that is tied to where you last touched the ground, so it cannot infinitely fly upwards. If you use Strafe Glide with Dawnblade, you can bounce along the ground and gain speed very fast, similar to Heat Rises skating. This can further be combined with your dashes for even more speed. Next up, we have mountaintop jumping. Warlock Jump is very unique in that it reacts positively to explosive damage, whether that be prospector shots, mountaintop, explosive barrels, they all increase the momentum while you're gliding. Normally, gliding has a cap and won't let you go too high or too fast when it's active, but Heat Rises removes this cap, and you can pretty much go as high as the map allows you. To mountaintop jump, all you need to do is activate Heat Rises, double jump, and shoot mountaintop as soon as glide is activated. This will give you the most height. This is very useful anywhere you need to go vertically, as it takes you much further than any normal or Heat Rises jump. You can do the same thing with Prospector, as Ritz found in his video here. This requires stacking damage resists to survive, but produces a much higher and faster launch upwards. Simply hold fire to shoot the Prospector shots, and release fire right after activating Burst Glide, and you should go soaring. Moving on to the advanced, similar to bubble and shatter skating, Warlocks can wellskate. Eager Edge heavy attack off a ledge, jump, and activate super, all in about half a second. The best way to practice this is to go into a private mayhem match on a map like Altar of Flame or Eternity, setting the respawn time and super time to minimums and practicing the timing. The timing isn't exact and also depends on the length of the ledge you're going from. Wellskate can also be performed with a light attack, even without ammo, although with less speed. Out of a wellskate, you can also use your Icarus dashes to gain even more speed. Before or after a wellskate, you can also use Heat Rises, which will allow you to float up very high at the cost of your speed. To get more out of your Eager charge, you can do an Eager swipe into a wellskate. Simply Eager swipe forward to a ledge, then perform a heavy attack wellskate. This requires a lot more timing and practice, so get the wellskating down first before trying it. Wellskating can be slowed down by Icarus dashing into a wall or by dashing without burst glide, and sword swiping will stop your momentum completely. Wellskates also have a much worse habit of locking onto enemies, and if this happens you will lose your super. It's best to make sure no enemies are nearby, but looking directly upwards will also lessen the chances of locking onto enemies. Next, let's talk about wellskate bounces. If you wellskate with Heat Rises and use an Icarus dash to bounce off an angled surface, then activate Glide, it will shoot you crazy high. This requires some timing, practice, and specific locations, but can be hugely useful in a lot of raid skips. The newest Warlock tech that's been discovered is slide cancelling and momentum cancelling using the Incinerator Snap melee. If you press your super key without your super, it will play the sound of a charged melee and will perform a normal melee attack. With Incinerator Snap, doing this will cancel all impact damage, similar to the Icarus Dash animation. You can also use it to slide cancel. Normally you can't jump when you're sliding, but if you press your super key with Incinerator Snap, it will cancel the slide and allow you to jump and carry the momentum forward. Now, that should be all forms of movement on all classes, but one thing I'm not going to mention here, and probably not ever going to mention, is Sparrow movement. I just don't feel confident in my own skills and knowledge, and at least for now, I think it's better left to others in the community that know a lot more than me about that kind of stuff. I'll leave a link to some of the guides that I use to get to my mediocre level in the description. I also want to give a big shout out to anyone who used clips from in this video. You'll find their links in the description. And also a shout out to my girlfriend Rosie, who helped film some of the clips. And that's going to be all. If you enjoyed or found this useful, leave a like, maybe subscribe. Thanks for watching, and remember, mobility doesn't increase sprint speed. 07 Guardians.